Discover the amazing transformation of Jaguar, from heartwarming vision to unexpected downfall. Every now and then, a story breaks the silence of Maplewood. And this one? This one is electric. Jake, a 26-year-old mechanic, buried in grease and dreams, stumbled upon a rusty, dilapidated Jaguar in a junkyard, and that's where it all began. That car wasn't just metal, it was a canvas for hope, a testimony that something beautiful could rise from the ashes. With memories of roaring engines and childhood cheers echoing in his mind, Jake decided to resurrect the Jaguar and, in doing so, reignite the flickering spirit of his hometown. Growing up, Jake lived in the shadows of resilience. His mother, Sarah, an unwavering force, poured every ounce of her heart into raising him alone. Long nights and worn-out dreams molded him into a man of integrity. Now, with a fire in his belly, he envisioned more than just a car restoration. He dreamed of uniting a community, neighbors standing shoulder to shoulder, swapping tales and laughter while wrenching hope back into their lives. With every turn of the screw, he felt the weight of Maplewood's past. Lifting veterans, local leaders, even the kids who initially threw him skeptical looks, started buzzing around his garage, hopeful energy crackling in the autumn air like the crunching of leaves underfoot. Jake's garage became a hive of activity, each scrubbed-up piece of the Jaguar a symbol of all that was possible. The neighborhood, once overcast with hopelessness, began to shine again, but just as the engine fired up, disaster struck. Late one night, fueled by determination and caffeine, Jake plummeted down the rabbit hole of darkness. He opened his toolbox only to find it bare. His tools were gone. Betrayal hit hard, fingers trembled as rumors flared from the lips of a rival mechanic. Chad, the sharp-suited newcomer, smirked as he casually taunted Jake about buying the Jaguar and flipping it for profit. The weight of hopelessness crashed down on him as doubts clawed at his heart. Had it all been for nothing? Then came the news that sent Jake spinning into turmoil. His mother, once a beacon of strength, fell ill. The world he battled to revitalize now wobbled precariously. Should he chase the dream of the Jaguar or care for the one person who always believed in him? Voices of support wavered, community members exchanged glances filled with uncertainty, and Jake's heart sank. He felt like he'd let everyone down before even crossing the finish line. Amidst this storm, the night of the town fair arrived, the climax of his hard work. The spotlight felt like a swarm of fireflies as he gripped the keys to his restored Jaguar, fingers tingling with anticipation. Just as he stood to share his proud moment, chaos erupted. A misguided incident unfolded in the crowd, cutting through the air like a knife. The whispers began like a gust of wind, fueling doubt and accusation. Here he was, about to unveil hope, and in moments, it turned into a fracture in time. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing alone, in the glaring spotlight of judgment, Jake felt like the walls were closing in, the pressure mounting like the rusted chassis of that old Jaguar. Could he turn this mess into a display of resilience? Could he fight against the tide of misinterpretation and transform this chaos into something greater? As whispers filled the air, Jake drew a deep breath, ready to confront not just his uncertain future, but to redefine success. The fair thrummed with energy, a perfect setting for hope to either rise or shatter. Jake's heart raced in the bright light of the fair. Every eye felt like a magnifying glass, scrutinizing him, waiting for him to falter. He could almost hear the whispers wrapping around him like a thick fog. Is he really going to show that car? What a waste of time. Each mutter gnawed at his resolve, but beneath that pressure, a flicker of something else ignited determination. He stepped forward, feeling the weight of the keys in his pocket like a lifeline. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he began, voice quaking but steady. "I know things have been complicated. But I've spent the last few months working on something special, something for all of us. The crowd shifted, murmurs softening. He caught Emily's eye, her encouraging smile a small buoy in a stormy sea. She had always been there, in the garage, scraping rust off fenders and sharing stories about hometown dreams. And now, as her determined expression held him up, he felt a burst of confidence flood in. He pressed on. "This is more than just a car," Jake continued, sensing a connection with the audience. "It's about reminding all of us what we can achieve when we come together." His voice wavered near the end, but he pressed his lips together, pushing the emotions back down. As he unveiled the Jaguar, the glimmering paint, now a deep midnight blue, awoke the crowd from their solemnity. Gasps rippled through the spectators, eyes wide with wonder. The old engine, once the source of laughter and joy, now breathed life again as it stood magnificently under the fair lights, a beacon of hope. But as cheers started to gather momentum, Jake's breath hitched. He noticed Chad, lurking on the edges of the crowd with an almost predatory grin. The glimmers of hope in the audience turned cloudy, questions resurfacing about loyalty and intent. "Jake, are you sure you should be showing that off? Don't you think it's better to keep your head down?" Chad's voice cut through the jubilation like a chill gust of wind. Defiance surged within Jake. "This car is a testament to what can happen when dreams collide with hard work," he shouted back, holding on to the connection he had built with those in the crowd. "Tonight is about celebrating what's possible." All the noise faded momentarily as hope mingled with uncertainty. Whispers about betrayal lingered in the distance, but the raw energy of the revelation outweighed the doubts. He glanced around. Veterans nodded, kids grinned wide, and neighbors stepped closer, smiles wide, inspiring something electric in the moment. But just as the cheers peaked, Jake spotted the familiar figure of his mother, frail but proud, attempting to inch her way closer to the crowd. She may not have understood every technical term, but her pride in her son shone like the polished chrome of the Jaguar. In that moment, an idea gelled in Jake's mind. This wasn't merely about the car, but about the community's heart. "Let us drive it together." This rallying cry burst out of him. "Let us celebrate Maplewood together." As he climbed into the driver's seat, the roar of the revived engine echoed through the fairgrounds, vibrations of shared dreams filling the space. The crowd cheered, but Jake's heart tightened. Would his leap of faith resonate with the town, healing rifts that had formed? Could this moment stitch the torn fabric of their community? Just as he turned to wave, the tension shifted again. Chad stepped forward, an expression of mockery twisting his face. "We'll see how long that lasts, mechanic boy." The crowd froze, a heavy silence draping over the joyous anticipation. The air thickened with uncertainty once more. Could Jake really pull this off against the odds stacking against him? Or would the truth about the Jaguar's triumph unveil another twist of fate entirely? The evening air buzzed with tension, and Jake's heart thudded sharply. As he revved the engine, he knew this moment held the key to more than just a car, and the outcome hung in the balance. What lies ahead might change everything once more. Jake's fingers tightened around the steering wheel, the engine rumbling beneath him like a wild beast ready to leap into action. He glanced at the crowd, their faces etched with uncertainty, their hopes hanging by a thread. Had he bitten off more than he could chew? Chad strutted closer, a smirk plastered on his face, like a wolf waiting for the right moment to pounce. "You really think this will change anything?" He spat, his voice dripping with disdain. "One shiny car isn't going to fix all the years of neglect." Jake's pulse quickened. He knew Chad was right. This wasn't just about the car. It was about rekindling the spirit of a town that had been broken into pieces. He felt a wave of determination wash over him. He couldn't let Chad's words take root. "Not now. Let us take a ride," Jake shouted, his voice ringing out over the growing tension. "Let us show everyone what this car and our town can really do." With that, he slammed the gears into drive and floored the accelerator. The Jaguar's engine roared to life, a symphonic burst of sound that broke through the chill in the air. The crowd gasped, some stepping back, eyes wide with shock. For a moment, he couldn't see the worried faces, only the gleam of hope shining in the distance at the end of the fairground path. He took off, tires screeching as they gripped the asphalt, exchanging doubt for exhilaration. As he sped ahead, the wind whipped against his face, drowning out the worry circling in his mind. He was flying, the weight of the world briefly lifted. The Jaguar felt alive beneath him, each turn and straight stretch a promise of potential, but then reality sank back in. He glanced in the rearview mirror. There was Chad, not trailing behind but now accelerating to catch up. Panic surged within him. How could he possibly showcase the car, let alone the town, with someone like Chad on his tail? Wouldn't the very existence of his dream be at risk? He pushed the car harder, weaving through the fairgrounds until he spotted familiar faces, kids waving wildly, parents cheering. For every doubt he felt, they were there to remind him of his purpose. This wasn't just for him, it was for them. But then, with a sickening crunch, the Jaguar shuddered. The sound echoed ominously, a cruel reminder of its past. His heart sank as the speed dropped. The engine sputtered, choking on its own glory. Panic rippled through the crowd as they realized something was wrong. Chad's laughter pealed through the air, sinister and sharp. "Looks like your fancy dreams have hit a wall, Jake." Jake's mind raced. He couldn't let this be the ending. This was supposed to be a moment of triumph, not failure. He quickly scanned the dashboard, desperate for a sign, and it hit him the car had flickered to life in ways it shouldn't have if he hadn't poured his heart into it. What if this was the moment to galvanize everyone, instead of retreating in defeat? He kicked the gear into neutral and yelled over the growing crowd again. "I need your help. Let us get this car moving." Hands rushed forward, people shouting, hearts pounding in solidarity. In minutes, everyone amassed around the car, pushing and shouting encouragement. Each hand represented renewed hope, ready to drive back the shadows hanging over Maplewood. With a surge of strength, they worked together, fueling both the car and their collective spirit. Jake could feel the energy shift, turning from despair to belief. Just as the engine roared back to life, so did the atmosphere around them, electric and full of promise, but amid the cheers, a knot of worry formed in Jake's gut. Had he just ignited something greater than himself? As the engine purred back into action and the crowd erupted with joy, one question lingered in his mind. Would they accept him, wild dreams and all, or would Chad find a way to snuff out this spark before it could truly ignite? Jake shifted back into gear, eyes fixed on the open road ahead. The night felt heavy with possibilities, and this was just the beginning. The roar of the engine filled Jake's ears, a familiar rhythm that felt both comforting and exhilarating. The crowd's energy wrapped around him like a warm blanket. For the first time in what felt like years, he believed they could rally together, lift themselves up, and change the fate of their town. As he accelerated down the fairground path, the headlights illuminated the faces of the townsfolk, their expressions a mix of disbelief and growing excitement. They were hungry for change, for something bigger than themselves. This wasn't just a joyride, it was a movement, but behind him, the specter of Chad loomed. Jake dared a glance in the rearview mirror again. Chad had trailed off briefly, possibly caught off guard by the crowd's sudden fervor. But he never backed down that easily. With malicious intent, Chad gunned the engine and surged forward, determination burning in his eyes, fear gnawed at the edges of Jake's resolve. Was this how it ended? In a race against the town's destruction? "Come on, you beauty," Jake whispered to the Jaguar, willing it to go faster. But each bounce over the potholes felt like an echo of the challenges his hometown faced, so many cracks that had to be filled. Suddenly, a loud bang shattered the night. The world outside the car blurred as Chad's vehicle shot ahead, weaving recklessly through the crowd. Panic rippled through the spectators again. How could they celebrate a revival when a threat was charging right through the center of it all? Jake gripped the wheel tighter, adrenaline coursing. Stay focused, he told himself. This was about hope, about showing them they could rise from the ashes, with renewed vitality. he pressed the pedal down harder, feeling the Jaguar surge beneath him. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices a powerful chorus lifting him higher. In that moment, Jake realized they were not mere spectators. They were part of something larger, a family refusing to let despair dictate their fate. The jagged path seemed to stretch endlessly ahead, illuminated by the cheers of unity behind him and the howls of disapproval from Chad's corner. An idea clamped down in his mind like the Jaguar's south grip on the road beneath. He would not accept defeat. He swung the steering wheel aggressively, making a sharp turn onto a quieter lane that led away from the fairgrounds. He could feel a spark of rebellion igniting in the hearts of the townsfolk as they followed. "Follow me," he shouted, the feeling of camaraderie thick in the air. Every push of the accelerator straightened any creased brows, every turn stoked the embers of fellowship kindling in their souls. Then, a vision struck him. This run wasn't just a ride. What if they showcased their resilience in an impromptu race? A show of strength to drown out Chad's negativity. "We're taking this to Maplewood Boulevard," he yelled, turning the car with conviction, the headlights illuminating the road of their shared past and uncertain future. As they barreled towards the main street, excitement hung thick in the air. Jake could hear Chad's engine revving up behind him. This was it. A moment to plant their feet firmly in the ground, to declare that they would not be cowed or silenced, but that gnawing doubt clawed at him again. Could they all pull this off? Could he truly stand up against Chad and his relentless attitude? The boulevard appeared ahead, lined with hopeful faces ready to embrace what he could offer. Would they overpower the negativity once and for all, or would the race be their undoing? In the stillness before the chaos erupted, one thought echoed in Jake's mind: was this the defining moment for Maplewood, or a chance for Chad to shatter everything he had worked for? The answer lay just beyond the next turn. The air crackled with anticipation as Jake approached Maplewood Boulevard. Bright lights illuminated the historic street, and the murmur of the crowd swelled with excitement and tension. He could see families gathering, their faces painted with hope, their eyes glued to the lit path ahead. Somewhere in the distance, the loud growl of Chad's engine interrupted the cheers, serving as a grim reminder of the challenge that lay behind him. Jake's heart raced in sync with the car's engine. It wasn't just a race now. This was about more than steering his beloved Jaguar around the corners. This was about rekindling the spirit of Maplewood, and he couldn't let Chad crush that spirit beneath his tires. People were counting on him. As he roared down the street, he caught glimpses of familiar faces, old friends he grew up with, neighbors he spent countless evenings sharing stories with. Each smile fueled him further, making him feel invincible. They were here. They were ready. This was their moment. "Let us show them what we've got," he shouted over the roar of the engine, knowing they could hear him through the vibrations. The cars around him began to pick up speed, a makeshift pack drawing strength from one another. They were racing toward change, and nothing could stand in their way, but in the back of his mind, doubts hung heavy. Chad had always been a formidable opponent. He thought of all the bruised egos and petty fights over the years, the way Chad reveled in his own glory. Would this moment be any different? Suddenly, with a burst of speed, Chad's vehicle emerged alongside Jake, his laughter tight and mocking. The car's headlights glared down on him like a predator honing in on its prey. "Ain't this adorable?" Chad taunted, his voice cutting through the noise. "You think you can rally these losers against me?" Jake's grip tightened around the steering wheel, and a wave of determination pulsed through him. "This isn't just about me or you," he yelled back. "It's about all of us." A collective roar from the crowd surged past him, drowning out the fear and doubt. Jake glanced over at the spectators, and their cheers clamped down like steel bands around his heart. He could see their excitement, their need for change, lighting up their expression. Chad accelerated, keeping pace, sneering with pleasure. "We'll see how long that lasts when the dust settles." In that moment, Jake remembered what this meant: a fight not only for survival but for revival. Just as Chad's vehicle began to inch ahead, Jake found an opening. It was time to show his hometown they all deserved better. With a swift flick of the wheel, Jake veered off the main boulevard, taking a sharp turn that put him back in front of Chad, who didn't anticipate the move. The crowd erupted in a frenzy of cheers, voices blending together, creating a harmony of resilience. At that moment, he wasn't just racing against Chad, he was racing for hope, for a brighter future, and for a community too long held back by fear. Each rev of the engine felt like a pulse, a heartbeat echoing through the street. Jake pressed down on the accelerator. The Jaguar surged forward, the wind whipping his hair back and filling him with a sense of freedom he hadn't felt in years. But just as he glanced at the crowd again, feeling that surge of empowerment, chaos erupted. The roar of Chad's engine faded as a sudden explosion of noise rang out from behind. Tires screeched, and headlights flashed madly. What had just gone wrong? Was this the moment they had hoped for, or was it the start of something that could rip everything apart? Jake turned, dread pooling in his stomach, ready to face whatever disaster lay behind him. Could he really save them all, or had he just led them into deeper turmoil? The nightscape around Jake instantly transformed from excitement to sheer panic. The earth shook as the unmistakable sound of metal clashing echoed through the air. His heart dropped, feeling the weight of failure already creeping in. Had he pushed too hard? Had his thirst for change brought them to the brink of disaster? As he turned to look behind, the scene unfolded like a chaotic nightmare. Chad's vehicle had collided with another racer in a blur of smoke and spinning tires. The bright headlights blared through the haze like beacons of impending doom. The crowd that had once been so alive with hope now gasped collectively, their faces draining of color as chaos filled the air. Jake felt his pulse quicken. No, no, no. He thought of the families watching, the children clutching their parents' hands, eyes wide with fear. They believed in him, and now this? Was this what he had fought for? He quickly scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces, someone to anchor him in this new reality. He spotted his childhood friend, Maria, leading her little brother through the throng, but her smile had vanished, replaced by worry. She raised her hands, motioning for help, imploring him to do something. Without thinking, Jake slammed his foot down on the accelerator, but his instinct screamed for caution. With purpose and determination, he maneuvered the Jaguar toward the edge of the chaos. The crowd parted instinctively, a mix of awe and fear dancing across their faces. "Hold on!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the din. "I'm going to get you out of here." In that moment, he was not just the racer, he was the protector. They needed him now more than ever. As he neared the wreck, he could see Chad standing outside his car, waving his arms in frustration, eyes wide with disbelief. This wasn't victory, this was a disaster waiting to happen. With every instinct on high alert, Jake veered right, steering clear of the wreckage to try and find a way through the throngs of people. Clarity washed over him. If Chad was having a meltdown, maybe he could turn this around. He could just outrun Chad, he had to be the leader the community needed. Flying shards of glass sparkled in the streetlights like fallen stars, and the burning smell of rubber filled the air as he pressed forward. "Let us go, everyone!" he yelled, urging people to move away from the danger zone. "We need to get to safety." His heart raced not only from adrenaline but from a growing sense of hope. He could feel the first sparks of resolve ignite in those around him. People started to act, pulling their kids close, moving out of the way, responding to his voice. As they scrambled away from the chaos, Jake noticed a familiar glint in Maria's eyes. As children clutched their parents tighter, she stood tall, directing traffic with a confidence that reminded him of the power of community. Suddenly, a loud explosion blared from behind them. The shockwave knocked Jake off balance, and a cold fear gripped his heart. This was more than a collision now, it was a catastrophe. Would they all make it out safely? Jake felt the undeniable urge to protect them swell inside him. It was his moment to lead while the world around him spiraled out of control. He turned back to the chaos one last time, ready to face Chad and the danger together. Could he really rally everyone to safety, or would their hope dissolve in the flames of this night? As sirens approached in the distance, he pushed aside doubt. It was time to show that hope can rise from ashes. Jake steadied himself, his heart thudding against his chest like a drum the moment before it bursts into music. He knew they were not out of the woods yet. The blast echoed in his ears, lingering like the scent of burnt rubber that hung thick in the air. People were still panicking, and he could feel the weight of their fears pressed against him. He could be their light, but only if he could keep his own fears at bay. "Okay, focus," he murmured to himself. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, the leather cool against his palm. The jagged twinkle of glass scattered on the pavement caught his eye, a reminder of how quickly things could shatter. There. He spotted Chad again, still standing, frozen amidst the chaos. Rage and disbelief flickered across Chad's face, his jaw tight, eyes wide, as if trying to grasp the enormity of what had just happened. Deep down, Jake understood. His friend had just lost control of everything they had worked toward. "Chad!" Jake called out, inching the car forward, urging him back to reality. "Get in the vehicle. Now!" The look on Chad's face shifted from frustration to something softer, a flicker of hope or maybe realization. He hesitated, but Jake was already releasing the passenger door, swinging it wide open. "Come on. This isn't over." The look exchanged between them spoke volumes. Chad could see the urgency in Jake's eyes, the desperate need to change the narrative of the night. In that moment, the fear in the crowd transformed into something palpable, a shared heartbeat once again connected by the racing pulses of chaos and courage. Finally, Chad moved, stumbling toward the car, eyes darting toward the looming wreckage behind them. Jake could see the memories flicker through his friend's mind, but he believed they could still rewrite the ending. He could still be part of something good. Maria and her brother were not far off, her little brother clinging tight to her side, eyes wide with confusion. Jake's heart ached for them. Children should never experience fear like this. "Let us go," he shouted again, the adrenaline fueling his urgency. "We all need to get out." He glanced in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of a few others starting to gather, drawn by his voice, moving away from the horrific scene with a shared sense of purpose. Hope surged in his chest, battling against the uncertainty swirling in the air. As Chad climbed into the passenger seat, Jake turned to him. "We'll get them out. We'll fix this." Chad nodded, his expression slowly shifting from defeat to determination, grateful for the encouragement. Together, they would usher everyone to safety, almost as if they were stitching the torn fabric of the night back together. "Okay, let us make this right," Chad said, his voice steadier now. They were ready. With one last look at the wreckage, Jake pressed the accelerator, feeling the engine hum beneath him, vibrating through every nerve ending as they surged forward. Around them, the crowd began to shift in rhythm. The energy morphed from fear into resolve, a beautiful transformation fueled by instinctive trust. As they moved through the throngs of desperate faces, Jake spotted a man who had fallen, face down on the pavement. Without hesitation, he turned the car toward him. "Help me get him." Chad leaned out, instructing others to lift the man, pain evident in his eyes. In a split second, their chaotic night was shifting into a mission. Everyone looked alive again, willing to pull together. But just as they lifted the man, a second explosion erupted behind them, illuminating the sky with a burst of fiery destruction. The faces in the crowd turned, some screaming, others frozen in shock. Jake's heart sank, and panic flared anew. Could he really lead them all out of this madness? Fueled by determination, Jake gripped the wheel tighter, suddenly aware that this battle was far from over. What awaited them when the dust settled? Would bravery turn out to be enough, or would they sink back into despair? With the roar of sirens closing in and the chaos escalating, he felt a weighty realization. Settle in, the fight for hope had only just begun. Jake's hands shook against the wheel, the engine's growl competing with the echoes of destruction behind them. The second explosion felt like the sky had cracked open, tearing at the seams of their resolve. His grip tightened, trying to anchor himself amidst the whirlwind of chaos, his heart racing as he turned to Chad. "Are you okay?" He barely managed to ask, concern washing over the urgency. "Just, keep driving, man." Chad's voice was steadier than Jake felt. "We need to get them out of here." In that moment, Jake's eyes were drawn to Maria and her little brother, who had managed to draw closer, hand in hand. Maria's expression reflected equal parts fear and determination as she approached. She was the embodiment of courage for her brother, despite the terror surrounding them. "Jake!" Maria called, raising her hand as if trying to reach them through the craziness. "We can't leave without them. Get in." Jake commanded, urgency pushing each word out. "We can't waste any time." As Maria clutched her brother tightly, they climbed into the back seat. The boy buried his face against his sister, tears glistening from the corners of his eyes. Jake's heart twisted, but there was no time to falter. They were all in this together now. With one last dodging glance in the rearview mirror, Jake stepped on the gas, roaring away from the chaos. The vehicle surged forward, cutting a path through the crowd, which now swirled with a mix of fear and frenetic energy as more people began to rush toward the chaos, intent on helping or finding loved ones. But just as Jake thought they had a moment to breathe, sirens wailed ominously, filling the air with tension. Paramedics were converging on the scene, and chaos seemed to multiply. Their arrival signaled danger, not safety. There were still too many exposed, too many in need of rescue. "We have to get to the back streets," Chad shouted, pointing left. Jake nodded and swerved to follow the pealing cries of the sirens, taking a deep breath as his mind raced. It was as though he was navigating a maze. Every wrong turn could bring more wreckage and pain. The roads twisted and turned, the world outside becoming a blur of flashing lights and shadows. "Look out!" Maria screamed suddenly, her voice piercing the frenzy. Jake turned just in time to see a wave of panicked figures breaking away from the wreckage. Adrenaline surged anew, and instinct took over. "Hold on!" he yelled, veering sharply out of their pathway. The car skidded dangerously, tires squealing against the pavement. He fought to steady the wheel, heart in his throat as they narrowly escaped a collision with a frenzied group. In that moment, Jake felt the weight of responsibility press down on him. People were fleeing towards them, reaching out for salvation. Chad leaned forward, urgency clouding his eyes. "We can help them, Jake. Open the doors. We can't fit everyone." Jake snapped, the desperation bubbling to the surface. "It's not just about that," Chad countered. "We have to show them we care. If we let any of them think they're alone." Jake's resolve wavered. How could he turn his back on those lost souls? They all needed a way out, a hint of hope amidst the despair. He pressed his lips together, glancing back at Maria. She nodded, her determination wrapping around him like a lifeline. "Okay," Jake shouted, "we're doing this." Just as he swung the passenger door wide open, a flash of heat burst behind them. A third explosion tore through the air, sending shockwaves that rattled their already fragile sanctuary. Dread tangled around Jake's heart. What if this time he wasn't strong enough? What if this show of solidarity only brought more chaos? As dust and debris filled the air, he felt a flicker of something. Was it hope or recklessness? "Let us go!" Jake shouted once more, his voice choked with raw emotion. "We can't give up now." With every ounce of courage, he braced for what lay ahead. Would they forge a new path through this chaos or become swallowed by it? The real fight was just beginning, and only fate would reveal who they would become. The world outside the car was a tempest, waves of panic crashing against every hourglass of hope. As Jake swung open the passenger door, a wave of urgency rushed over him. A handful of terrified faces surged towards them, eyes wide, breaths quick and desperate. He could see the fear etched deeply into their expressions, the silent plea hanging between them and the roar of upheaval all around. "They're coming!" Maria shouted, her voice quaking with urgency. "Hurry!" Jake's heart thundered as he instinctively reached out, grasping the hands of those who dared to leap towards the vehicle. A woman, no older than 25, stumbled forward, cradling a small child. Her eyes were wild with fear yet glimmered with fierce determination. "Please!" she cried, "we can't be left behind. Quickly, quickly!" Jake urged, his mind racing as he fought against the tide. Every second felt like an eternity, and the vibrating pulse of explosions reminded him just how precarious their situation was. They were bound in this moment, thrown together by fate and desperation. Chad and Maria helped pull them in, squeezing their bodies into the cramped space. The air was thick with tension, and the faint scent of smoke invaded their sanctuary. The little boy Maria had been holding against her side shifted nervously, his eyes darting from one adult to the next. "Keep your head down, okay?" Maria whispered, gently stroking his hair, grounding him in their shared reality. Jake could see them, the shadows outside pulling closer, instincts driving them to seek refuge, to find an ally amid the chaos. But he felt there was only so long they could stretch their luck. "We have to go now," he shouted, eyes scanning the entrance of danger that loomed behind them. With a quick roar of the engine, he peeled away, tires screaming against the asphalt. The vehicle lurched forward, jolting them all into a shared rhythm of heartbeat and fear. Jake was hyper-aware of the eyes watching them from the sidewalks, the look of desperation that mirrored his own. He wanted to help them all, but the weight of those they already pulled along felt like a mountain on his chest. "Look out!" Chad yelled. Before Jake could react, another figure rushed toward the car, a man whose desperation overwhelmed his sense of safety. Jake swerved to miss him, and they veered onto an unmarked side street. "What are we doing?" Jake's voice cracked, fear edging into his tone. "We can't keep doing this. This is what it means to be human." Chad replied, eyes locked ahead, unwavering. "We need to pull together, show them we're not leaving them behind." Yet as he drove deeper into the unknown, the sounds of chaos still echoed. Each distant explosion was a reminder that they were just running, deeper into darkness. The hope surging through him was tempered by the uncertainty of what awaited around every corner. "Do you think they'll let us go?" Maria asked, her voice barely above a whisper, dread pooling in her youthful eyes. Jake had no answer. Each question lingered, heavy and unspoken, filling the air in the car with a sadness that threatened to engulf them all. But just then, as they turned another tight corner, Jake spotted a flicker of illumination. A crowd gathered at a local diner, illuminated against the backdrop of destruction. A chance. A glimmer of hope. "Park!" he commanded, adrenaline pumping anew. Maybe they need help too. What lay ahead felt uncertain yet galvanizing, and with a collective breath, they all realized they might have to pivot again from escape to action. With one last look, Jake felt the weight of every decision tugging at him. Was he ready to embrace the unknown, or was he just chasing a fleeting illusion of safety? Standing on that precipice of uncertainty, he took a deep breath. In the unraveling story of survival, he knew everything could change in an instant. Would they find sanctuary, or would this become another doorway fraught with danger? The diner loomed ahead, its neon lights flickering like a beacon in the storm. Hope surged in Jake's chest. "This is our moment," he shouted over the cacophony of chaos that buzzed in the air. With trembling hands, he turned the steering wheel and angled the Jaguar towards the raucous gathering outside the entrance, people spilling onto the pavement in a mix of worry and tenacity. "Everybody out," Jake urged, feeling the thrum of energy vibrate through him. "We can't leave anyone behind." Maria clutched her brother close as they scrambled from the car, urgency propelling them forward. The crowd around the diner began to react, some eyes glistening with recognition, a few extending hands eager to unite. Jake's heart pounded. "We need to form a line. Help those who need it." He directed everyone as they set to work, pouring out compassion into the chaos, moving together with a singular purpose. Faces that had once held shadows of doubt blossomed into unwavering determination. Neighbors, townsfolk, former rivals, each person became a thread in a larger tapestry of resilience. Chad, speaking breathlessly, shifted gears quickly. "I'll grab whoever I can." He darted into the fray, pulling parents and children from the crowd, guiding them toward the shelter of the diner. Together, it felt like they were forging a new path, interlocking their hands and hearts to shield one another from the turmoil just beyond the neon glow. Jake found Maria, her brother clutching her side. "What about Jake's mom?" she asked, urgency palpable in her eyes, the worry on her face undeniable. "We have to get to her." Jake knew the truth in her plea. In this storm of chaos, they needed to reunite the circle of love they had formed. "Let us go," Jake shouted, resolve solidifying his voice. They couldn't just change the tide for themselves, they had to ensure everyone was pulled from the wreckage. "We need to find her." As they moved away from the relative safety of the diner, a sudden stillness saturated the air. An echo of uncertainty crashed against the hearts of all present. Suddenly, a wave of panic ripped through the crowd, and Jake spun around, eyes wide. A swarm was pushing into the open street, dragging faces pale and frayed with fear. Fear clawed at his throat. "Chad! What's happening?" he yelled, desperation rising. "Chad!" Maria called. "Is there a way to?" But before she could finish, the ground shook and flames erupted in the distance, a fierce reminder that hope and chaos often intertwine. "Stay together. Stay focused," Jake replied, feeling the fire from the heart of the diner ignite his spirit. "We have to make sure everyone knows they are not alone." He sprinted forward, rallying the crowd as he moved toward where the glow shimmered in the distance, beckoning for action. The behind-the-scenes motion pulsed with urgency. There were hands reaching out, reaching in, grabbing hold of each other like roots desperately trying to find solid ground. In that fray, they began forming chains with enough strength to bridge the gaps of fear. As they pressed through the darkness, Jake caught sight of his mother, Sarah, standing at the back, a sight that felt like finding the missing piece of his heart. She looked frail, her face illuminated by the flickering lights, but her eyes sparkled, shining with pride and unyielding love. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice mingling with the chaos around them. She was still a force, still fighting against the tide, and in that moment, the storm stitched together Jake's resolve. He reached for her, their hands locking together like a lifeline. "We're together now," he exclaimed, emotion swelling within him. He turned back to the crowd, their faces reflecting a glimmer of hope. "We've fought too hard to let this define us. Where there's strength and unity, there's resilience." The roar of cheering ignited around them. Each chant echoed through the chaos, building momentum that felt unstoppable. Community members surged forward, taking hands, joining together in an unbreakable force, all unwilling to let fear claim their spirit. As the night loomed dark and uncertain, filled with the echoes of those still battling chaos, Jake stood firm, alongside his mother. Hearts thrummed like a collective heartbeat, each pulse celebrating the triumph of survival, and the story they would write together would become an anthem of perseverance. The sky lit with personal fireworks, illuminating love and warmth woven through community, their resilience emerging from the ashes. This was not just a fight for a dream, it was a fight for each other, for their hometown, for Maplewood. In that moment of unity, Jake smiled wide, surrendering to the belief that they would rise. This was not only the conclusion of one journey, it was the beautiful beginning of many more, harmonizing together. The crowd erupted, voices swelling, a melody of renewal, and even Chad, once an adversary, joined in. "Together," they echoed, hands raised high. Together they would transform the ashes into something magnificent. Now, dear friends, this is LIT. If you've enjoyed this thrilling moment of triumph and transformation, you need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't miss a beat. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because, trust me, it makes a difference. And don't forget to comment with your reactions and feelings about this uplifting finale. Most importantly, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even 1 second to share. Let us keep the fire of hope burning strong.